Hello everyone. Today I wanted to do a checkup video on my orchid pods. All two or all three of them, because I don't have very many right now. So the first one is this one, this little guy right here. This is a Latoria dendrobium is what it is, the plant. This is Dendrobium mini snowflake crossed on Roy Tokunaga. Here's the tag I made. It's kind of fading a little bit, but I have it documented in my phone and in my cross documentation book or notebook, so I have record of that. If the tag fades, the tag's just kind of like a on the spot kind of thing. And then I've got a backup of the pod that I made in come on, focus on it please. There we go. At the start, I believe at the start of January. Let's see. Yeah, start of January, the 3rd. I wrote 17 for some reason. I meant 18, but I made it 17. So this one's a lot younger. It looks a lot paler on camera than it really is, and I don't know why. There we go. But it's actually much darker. So this one probably looks a little bit pale too. But they're small flowers, so the pods don't get very big. But there's still probably going to be at least several thousand seeds in there, no problem. But this is my first cross, and you can tell that. Oops, let's knock that off again. You can tell that from the tag here. POL is my last name initial. 17 is the year of cross, and 001 is the ID code of the cross. This is my first cross, so it gets the ID code 001. So the pollen parent that was used, Roy Tokunaga, is this Latoria right here. They're both Latoria dendrobiums, and that's the easiest way to breed dendrobiums is to stay within their subgenre. Latorias are their own subgenre, and so breeding them together works very well, while breeding this with others. Like, their Phalaenopsis types work very well with Latorias and crosses, but it's easier if you stay within the subgenre. So that you can tell the similarities in the plants if I step back or scoot back a little bit. There, you can tell how they both grow, and it's probably because also they share a common parent. Mini Snowflake here is Aberrans crossed on Johnsoni, and Johnsoni is a wide, large flower-ish, and then Aberrans is a small, wide open lip flower, and so the flowers on this one, which I'd shown at a spotlight, I believe, have wide open lip and the white color. Well, Roy Tokunaga here, this is a cross of the semi-alba, or I mean not semi-alba, oh no, it is semi-alba. Semi-alba crossed on the spotted form. And so this one, fantastic grower. I love both of these. But they are, Roy Tokunaga is going to really upsize the flower a lot. Roy Tokunaga is Atroviolatium crossed on Johnsoni. And so Astroviolatium imparts a very vibrantly striped and colored lip. And so I'm hoping that the progeny will possess some degree of that. And since it's a seed cross, there's going to be a ton of different variants resulting from the cross. So I could have one that exhibits a ton of the Johnsoni parent, while I could have another one that exhibits a ton of the grandparent. But I can have one that exhibits a bunch of the mini snowflake, a bunch of the Roy Tokunaga, and as well as maybe even bring out some genetics that got buried in the cross. And so this is going to be huge if the pod is not sterile, because the thing about orchid pods is you can have a pod, it'll grow to quote unquote maturity, and then you look at the seeds under a microscope to see if they're viable, and there's no embryo, they're just seed coats. That's the sucky thing about growing orchid pods. And so I'm hoping that doesn't happen, and that's why I made the backup, in case that first one fails in some way. And like I said, I assure you it's not as pale as it looks on camera. It's just for some reason looks really pale, as does this one. But that one's going to be a little an entertaining one for sure. The other one that I have going right now that I can confirm is this one. This is a Phalaenopsis pod. Come on, focus on it. This one's a lot younger. That's why it doesn't look as plump and why it's not as far along. This one I made on the 15th of January. This cross is Phalaenopsis Sogo Manager crossed on a unregistered cross of Mount Lip and Tinny Ace. Both of those parents in the pollen parent are registered, but the cross of the two is not yet, so I might have to do that if I want to register this, if it makes it. Come on. This camera sucks. Apologize for that. I will try and work on making sure that it stays focused more often. So yeah, so the pod on this one, the Phalaenopsis are interesting because it's mostly the species parents, but Sorghum Manager has a large influence. Almost half its genetics is Phalaenopsis amboyensis. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Probably not, but that's how I said it. And so with Phalaenopsis, you'll often have, and there's the plant down there. You'll often have the flower actually remain behind in some grade and color itself green, like you can see how green it is. This is normally a vibrant yellow, but it's turned like very green, and on camera, it's not as apparent. And the flower actually photosynthesizes to some degree, and so I thought that was really cool to learn. Bellina and Violaceae both do that, I believe, as well, and I'm pretty sure Amboyensis does it, because otherwise, why would it be doing it? Now granted, because it's a hybrid, it's not doing it completely. You can see this petal is dying back a little bit. It lost the lip and the other sepal, but the rest have remained plump, healthy, and green. Come on, focus up again. There we go. Plump, healthy, and green, and it's a slow process. Orchid pods take months to mature. So, depending on the size of the plant, a big Cattleya pod would probably take nearly a year. But in like some cases, but a small little dendrobium like this, the cross on this pod was made November 25th, and it's already near maturity. The pod will probably be ready could be ready as soon as early as the end of the month, no later than mid-March. So this will be fun. I'm going to split it up and send it to a couple flaskers that I know, so that I can make sure that if something happens, I don't lose the cross entirely. And then I also have my backup pod. Now they're both floriferous bloomers, and Roy Tokunaga can be fragrant sometimes of roses. Mine wasn't when I had it, but it also hadn't been opened yet, so who knows. But once it opened, it started to smell a little bit. Not really though, but who knows? I might just had a bad cross on that. Mini Snowflake though isn't fragrant, but it produces tons of spikes. When I got it, it had 10 spikes, and then it grew another 2 more. And each one had at least 4 flowers on them, and they're small little flowers. I'm not going to say they were huge. They were probably about that big around. But there were tons of them, and so it was just a cloud of white, and that's why I loved that hybrid. But Latorias are my favorite, I think by a long shot, my favorite subgenre of dendrobiums. Just I like the way they grow. I like their floriferousness. They can bloom multiple times from a cane. So even though this cane here has already flowered, it can bloom again from that cane. I've seen cases where there were like 5 or 6 spikes growing out of one cane over time, and so they can bloom a bunch of times from a cane. Now granted, carrying the pods might slow it down a little bit, and it might not bloom off one of its next growths, or for a little while. But the thing about orchids is that they develop their pods very slowly over a long period, and in doing so, they also don't put a lot of energy at one moment into their seeds, and they also don't put a lot of energy overall into their seeds, because even though some pods can produce millions, they don't have any. They only have the embryo. There's no endosperm, which is the part of the seed that feeds the seedling when it starts to grow, until it can start photosynthesizing for itself. And orchid seeds lack that, so they can afford to produce millions of seeds, and it's not super taxing on the plant if it has to. So that's why you can have some very sick plants still producing a pod just fine. But yeah, that's about it. I do have, and you can see the remnants. You can see it up there. That Cattleya, I just pollinated that a few days ago actually. So I think like 5 days ago. So it's just now starting to senesce, and so hopefully the pod takes. I crossed it's Cattleya Pure Soul, Yutaka Morimoto, and I crossed it with the pollen of a Cattleya Legesii cross. It's a Legesii Aranda B crossed on Legesii Adorable, which is Bill Tom's clone. And so it's a fantastic flower, and so I got the pollen from a friend who donated it to me, and I pollinated a couple flowers with it. Both fell off and failed. So with Cattleyas, that seems to be harder for me. I don't know if that's generally the case, but for me it's harder. While the pods took very readily, the ones I did. I did try to cross a Nobly onto this just to see if it would work, but it didn't. I don't think it's capable of working. But I could be wrong, who knows. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and I hope this has been a little bit informative onto Orchid Pods and an update on mine. And I hope soon that I can get these flasked and growing, because I'm super excited about it. I will get to name it and everything when they bloom, in like 5 to 6 years, probably. But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone.